CPAC, or the Climate Protection Action Committee. And so this is a voluntary committee that was mentioned in the introduction for helping guide the city on climate. And so I would say that a lot of people want to get involved and have aspirations about how they want to get on CPAC and what about city business. And so my aim with organizing this particular session was to demystify that and to give both the city's perspective about what that panel is about or what that committee is about, but also volunteers. And then also figure out how can we effectively work together with that structure. And so to that end, on the CPAC panel here, I've added some of the panels. So first and foremost, we have Mary Baldauf here on the panel. And so she is the sustainability coordinator at the city, and she brings us in. And then we have Gretchen Lambert, who is an architect with a local architect firm in town. And then Penny Hoffman. And so if I could just have you each have a moment to briefly introduce yourself to the others, and then we'll go over the questions.
I'm Mary Baldauf. I'm a non-traditional environmentalist. I got my start cleaning up a litter alley when I was a little girl, 4 years old. And my mother says that she gave me my start. There was not a sustainability program when I was little or in college. I just came about it organically. And I majored in journalism here at the university, got my BA in journalism, and now they have all these great programs. But I have 30 years experience, different venues, local government, been with the city 13 years, and county government. I've worked for some nonprofits, and then I've done some volunteer work for the environment. Was at Keep the Midlands Beautiful. I was on the board for KMB and then got the job. So it's been a neat little thing. You never know what you're gonna do when you do something when you're a child. Be careful what you let your children do.
All right, well, I'm Gretchen Lambert. I'm with Studio 2LR. We are commercial architects here in town. And I actually, from 3rd grade on, knew I wanted to be an architect. So yeah, those formative years, I tell you. I came to CPAC when I saw an email from Women in Leadership saying that there were all these boards that still needed people in vacancies. And of course, they're trying to promote women to fill those vacancies. And so I saw CPAC and I thought, you know, I'm an architect. I know some things about the environment and material use, things like that. So maybe I'll apply. And I thought, you know, well, so I'll fill out this application and I'll hear back. And next thing I know, I get a letter from Mary Pat saying, well, last night council approved you and welcome aboard. So they threw me in to the fire, and so far I haven't worked. So learning a lot.
Hello, everyone. My name is Penny Cochran, pronouns she, hers. I am an organizer for the Sierra Club, which is the world's oldest and largest environmental organization. We have some 9 million members, about 5,000 of which are here in South Carolina. And I am rounding out the end of my first term on CPAC with these lovely ladies here, some wonderful individuals elsewhere in this building. But like so many of you, I saw an announcement in the paper, CPAC openings, and because it worked closely with my environmental work as a renewable energy organizer in the area, I said, first I talked to my boss and he said, aren't there some volunteers at Sierra Club that can go and do that? I was like, no, I really need to be there. I need to be in the middle, in the mix. This is it. We can really make a difference. So here I am, and I'm pretty proud of what we've accomplished in those 3 short years, or actually more like 2.5, honestly, yeah. But excited to tell y'all more about it if you have some good questions.
So what the way this is going to be structured, I have some questions I prepared for them, and then at the end, we're going to have lots of time for you to be able to ask questions and engage. You know,
We want tough questions.
Yes.
Yeah, so I did, so my first was sort of what is CPAC? Bob did some describing of what is CPAC, so we're not necessarily gonna go, what is CPAC? Full stop, but you can talk about it in terms of who would help if we're talking from the city perspective. But how did it come to be and has its focus changed over time?
I think that's me. It came to be in 2006 when City Council supported the U.S. Council of Mayor's climate protection plan. And Ann Sinclair, former Councilwoman Ann Sinclair, was volunteered to lead it up, to create this thing. And it was housed in Public Works, because that's where recycling is. And so many things that have to do with sustainability traditionally are in Public Works. They got a core group of volunteers together, and I was actually.
Have to go through normalcy, but they require changes, require modification that will get us.
Members are people who have an interest in CPAC. And it's really morphed from an ad hoc committee without a lot of structure to being a more structured, strong organization. It's waxed and waned. There have been times that it's been very active. And there have been times when our group laid a little low. And that's just natural. It's at its strongest right now, I would say, definitely. And I think that's about it. There's strong buy-in from the staff, because there were staff that were involved with that first plan. And our first facility guy, David Nudge, he knew it back and forth. And he said, no, we can't do that. It's not in the plan. And so I felt like he always had it on the back of his hand. So it was good. But that was good.
So it's always been part of the Public Works
Right.
model, you like setting the boundaries.
Get it going.
Yeah. And then from Gretchen and Penny, your perspective, has it been the same since you've been on it?
No, thanks a lot to this lady here who really kind of helped whip us into shape. These two right here tore out the bylaws and said, what's working, what's not working? How are we going to make sure that we have direct access to city council, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, good job cleaning us up with the bylaws, all that good stuff.
The pandemic was actually a blessing for us.
Yeah, so you all have to understand that for me and Penny and Lori, you guys came on a couple months before me. I came on in December, right? Then. So we have about 3 years of experience on CPAC. So we are newbies. Mary Pat leads us through, well, this is what we've done in the past with all things. We just didn't know. So when we came on board, it was, would you say we were in a little bit of a wane, kind of, a little bit of things that kind of wrapped up. There wasn't a whole lot going on. And, I got 1 or 2 meetings before all of a sudden, wham, the world ended and we went online. And that was like the best thing, because everyone was able to meet meetings, because there wasn't like, oh, I have a meeting that I have at work that I can't, so we got super focused from everybody who was on the committee. And then we decided, all right, well, let's break things. Remake them, right? So we took the opportunity to say, let's rewrite the bylaws, let's rewrite the structure of the whole organization. We have 6 people. What if there's a tie? We don't have a budget, so it's not like we're voting on money or anything, but we need to have 7, let's have voting and non-voting, but so we got really in deep and said, let's make the bones of the organization work really well so that all of the things that we embark upon have that good structure.
If I recall, somebody said, let's blow it up and start over.
It has made me more comfortable with discomfort. I will say that in conflict. I'm very conflict averse, and these people have made me feel more comfortable with. There's good things that can happen out of conflict. So, yeah. Yes. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I love blowing things up. But as an organizer, I will say the hardest thing about moving momentum forward is sort of setting that baseline and that groundwork and getting the structure in the way that we need it to push that ball up the mountain. And it has been a bit of a push, but once you get the governance in place, all the policy comes quickly after that.
All right, so are there some things that CPAC has worked on that you're particularly proud of? Would you like to share some of those with us?
Oh, okay, well, I will say as an architect, I learned very fast that I don't know anything. And with this group, there are some heavy hitters with a lot of knowledge and experience. I was very humbled. I was like, oh crap, how am I going to give to this group? So one of the things as a small business owner, having started a number of businesses, I can do is I know how to set up structure. So I was very involved in rewriting bylaws. Right now I'm involved in, we're kind of readdressing some resolutions that the city has passed with Ready for 100. So I was able to take that and listen to the backgrounds, knowledge, the input of these people around me who know so much, and help to synthesize that into better resolutions, better organization, things like that. So I was really excited to find a place in this organization and also just to do that because I think it has.
I would say for me, it's hard because that action plan has over 60 items. And we've achieved a good number of them. So it's hard, a lot of them you don't see, y'all don't know about, but I know all the traffic lights have been switched to LED. A lot of them are not sexy, they're loading and fruit, and that's good. But I think for me, it was the STAR communities, which we did in 2017. And what that is it's a rating system for sustainable communities. And it was just this enormous thing. And we were chosen to be part of a leadership group. And we got a lot of people together. It was almost a reformation of the people that came together to do the action plan. We had people from all different walks of life. But we were relatively new to this. We're in Little Columbia, South Carolina. We got 3.5, we were named a 3-star community, but we were actually a very high 3-star. We were within mere points of being a 4-star. And when we started, I thought, I hope we just get stars. I mean, you never know. Because we were people who've done this are like the Portlands and the Sacramentos and the people that you think of when you think of truly sustainable. So I was just thrilled that we got 3 stars. I always say almost 4. And we were actually, this is kind of breaking news. We haven't even really announced it to the community. Star Communities has gone in with the U.S. Green Building Council, and they are now lead for cities. And it's kind of the premier sustainability rating right now. And we were just chosen 1 of 15 to be in this leadership program. So in a year, we should be a lead city. And somebody asked me, what do we want to be? Platinum, duh. But we also just got a technical assistance grant from the Department of Energy and the National Renewable Energy Lab. We are going to be doing a framework for the Ready for 100 that focuses on low income housing. Because those people, you know, like Bob said, 50% of people here rent. And it creates some difficult challenges. So we're gonna work with these folks for about a year and try to come up with a roadmap. But some exciting stuff going on.
The DOE grant was pretty exciting too, because it was the first time that really CPAC had worked together with the city and the greater community to prepare the grant. And so it was a true collaborative effort in terms of putting things forward. And so then that was really hopeful for being able to expand upon city capacity.
What they're not saying is Columbia was one of 3 southeastern cities. Most of the cities selected
Yes.
were in the Midwest, where regulatory nature makes achieving 100% energy so much easier. But it was like us and some places in Florida and Alabama, like
Yeah.
the only southeastern states. But yeah, it's gonna be revolutionary for CPAC.
Yes.
But yeah, I'll just add that the thing that I've enjoyed working on the most is probably no shock to those who know me, but the Ready for 100 commitment that the city made almost 5 years ago to get the community to 100% renewable energy by the year 2036. It is challenging. Dominion Energy, previously known as SCE&G, is the investor-owned utility that services all of Columbia. And we've had to get really strategic and really creative in how we approach this. And you'll hear later on in this Climate Ready Columbia conference, one of the ways we did that was through this idea of aggregation, bringing cohort together to either work with Dominion or strike out on our own. So yeah, Gretchen and I are working on the second iteration of that promise to Columbians, and hopefully maybe even a third one down the road. So yeah, Ready for 100. Woo.
Excellent. Well, I'm just excited that things are happening because it wasn't always that way. And so I think along the way we learned effective working relationships, or they're still evolving. So how exactly does it work for a volunteer committee to advise the city? Does it always operate smoothly?
I will start, and Clint, feel free to jump in.
They work.
The city has lots of advisory committees, and what was the question again?
How does it exactly work? I get volunteers rocking in there, and being like, gonna change everything.
The city has lots of advisory committees, and I think that they're all passionate individuals. People like Dr. Z make things happen, these 2 ladies. And I think there's not, I mean, as a staff person, there are challenges to work with a very passionate group of people, of which I'm one, but staff has a different role. And it's our role to vet these projects, vet these ideas, and make sure that they're feasible. You know, we're not gonna just jump in and start something. And it's not a fast process. Clint can tell you that. It's not, you just can't come in and say, oh, I wanna do this. When I was at a nonprofit, you could do that. But at a city, you can't. Things are a little slow sometimes. And I think there may be a level of frustration amongst the members that they wish we were doing more. And there's always that issue of budget. So yeah, but I think like Mayor Rickman said, everybody's at the table. We might not always agree on the right way to do it. We might not always be ready to everybody go in the same direction, but we're talking about it. And that's a big thing in the southeastern city.
What would you wish that community volunteers knew before they joined? No, it's not.
Probably that I report to the city manager. And I have a different chain of command.
Yeah.
I don't report to the mayor. you know, they make great decisions, but staff is tasked to kind of work out the details. So we're in a little different position.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of those passionate pot stirrers, and, you know, and I have been, even before I was on CPAC, I'm well known to the city staff, which I work with intimately, just professionally, but, you know, we, especially, you know, Penny's a little bit different background with coming from Sierra Club. Me, I am in a private business, and I expect things to happen. Not that I'm bossy, but I'm like, okay, we got this idea, let's just do this, because we can, but we can't. And so that is where some of the rush comes in with us. So it's a learning process for us, just to understand and remember, we are an advisory body to the city. We are not really truly a body that takes action on our own. And man, that's hard to remember sometimes, really hard. But as Lori said earlier, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So we are really pushy for these wonderful things. And so while we have tension, very, you know, we have tension sometimes with some city staff about some things that we really feel strongly about, et cetera. But we always work through it and get to the point where we can talk about it, see if there's something that we can develop, how does this fit into the city's vision? And then by the time we get comfortable with that, we're coming out with 5 other things. So that's what I think our role is. We can never stop that funnel of ideas and information, because the second that we do, we're dead. We have to keep feeding it in. And Mary Pat's gonna need some extra staff. We're gonna have so much stuff planned to do. I mean, she's gonna need some help. So we're gonna feed y'all so much great information and stuff that we're gonna accept for years. So.
And they obviously can say stuff, but as a staff member, I can't. I couldn't go up to Clint and assistant city manager, I need staff. So that is something too, you know, you'll play a little different role.
Well, I would also, one thing that was a good learning curve for me in this was the fact that we're a council manager city, so it's one thing to have city council making these political affirmations like right for 100, and it's a very different thing for the staff to be able to enact it, when really the managers have to be part of the thing. So this is why Clint gets being brought up, is because he's part of the management team and he is going to really instrument person in all this.
And I don't mean to step on y'all's comments at all, but you know, I think that you mentioned conflict and gentle pressure. I see the role of an advisory committee is to keep the pressure on the elected officials and also city staff. And our role is to provide a realistic look of what public procurement looks like, how we have to protect public dollars and that sort of thing. So a realistic, maybe a little bit of an idealistic view, meeting together, but that gentle pressure, and then the dialogue of getting to know each other, respecting each other, appreciating each other's backgrounds. And I mean, I really enjoy that. I enjoy working with y'all, even though you're busting my chops sometimes. And that's okay. I mean, you know, because I deserve it sometimes. And so we've got that balance is there. And I think we're striking that. We're learning each other. So I would just say anybody that's coming onto the committee, I would encourage a little bit of patience to get to know folks and work with each other and understand our backgrounds. And then let's figure out how we can work together and move the ball forward as quickly as we possibly can and achieve our common goals. So I appreciate y'all. I really do.
Well said.
Well, I will just add that I do not envy Clinton, Mary Pat, in the sense that the politicians often write checks that they then have to cash, figure out how to make it work. So it is a tough position for them to be in. And I have occasionally shown up to a CPAC meeting with a poster behind me that reads, "No decisions about us without us," which means if you are a member of the public and you know we're talking about climate decisions that will affect your posterity, this is your opportunity to get involved. Come to one of the quarterly meetings, talk about what's going on in your neighborhood, talk about what's going on at your kid's school, talk about the intersections of climate, environmental justice, and city policy. So unless you participate, I mean, that's the essence of democracy. So come on, get in.
I would say also having meetings being mostly on Zoom though has allowed
Yeah.
more participation, and it makes me very thoughtful about how we're going to do things as we move forward. And so how can we have hybrid meetings, et
I
cetera?
mean, just look at how many people are participating online who might not have been able to participate otherwise. which is
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll get to the ask the questions too. All right, so there's been a learning curve recently.
Every day.
Every day.
There was some lessons learned, and I know I kind of jumped the gun with you on this one, but what are some things you've learned from the recent growing pains, and what do you wish volunteers did before they joined?
I think again, kind of the city structure and to be patient, as Clint said, because things are a little different. Again, we have kind of diligence to the taxpayer and their money and their time and the things they think. So your involvement is really good. But that's one reason we have to kind of go through everything in such a fine manner. It's not like we can just, not like you just do them at your house. You can abandon it halfway through. We have to have everything really thought out. And yeah, we can't just do it because everybody else is doing it, or because it sounds good, or because it looks good. You know, we have to figure out that it will work for the city of Columbia and how it will work.
Like you have 150,000 house guests, or like people that roommates, and then what decisions are you making at that house? And then
Yeah.
are you happy with it?
Yeah. Yeah, that is good. But, you know, we have this due diligence that we have to kind of see through. There we go. Okay. But it's a great thing, and I feel like I have grown so much and gained so much new knowledge. It's a good thing. I love my job.
Right, wait, don't go on. Now, one thing that I'm supposed to say was a growing pain, and still has been a growing pain, some of the newer members from CPAC would probably say this, is when I filled out the application for when and got on the CPAC, I didn't know, do we meet at Thursdays at 6 p.m. or Tuesdays at 8:30, and how many times a week, month, what, I had no idea except for a little blurb online about what CPAC was. So I say this to all of you, especially our students and younger people who are going to get involved with lots of these kinds of committees, right? Do a little bit of due diligence and find out what really are you committing to. We recently had someone, unfortunately, we're really working on this process with the city. It involves, there's the silos of the city. There are also people in other silos than just public works. We're working on a better method of getting people to be able to apply and getting this information of what they're applying to. But it's one of those things where we had a gentleman who applied and was brought on by city council and immediately had to decline being a member. We've had some people recently come on board and say, well, I can't make Tuesday mornings, even if it's on Zoom. So it's just the really simple, it's not do you have the knowledge or anything like that, it's can you even make the meetings, can you be a participatory member of this organization. So that's some of the very baseline structural kind of stuff we're trying to work through and make better. So, but in anything that you do, just know, try and do as much due diligence as you can before you sign up to something that's in.
We sign on the dotted line.
Very good too, so.
You got anything else for that?
No, I would just say the growing pain for me and the pain point is sort of the limited nature of what CPAC can do as a volunteer board or a volunteer group. Eventually, we are one of the pressure points to get action going with city council, but at the end of the day, our city councilors and our mayor could just say, no, not a priority. We'll deal with climate next year, maybe. So, yeah, there's only so much that we can do. There is a point that we can take it to and hope that our leaders will take it further.
I would also say that I would say growing pain that I've learned though, is you can have lots of dedicated volunteers who might want to take their time to go help make things happen. But that may also die because of it not having been vetted at the city. And so there's that, and then you would lose credibility in the volunteer side. And so it's this, how to keep the pressure enough to get more staff. And so how do you be helpful in that push without doing the work? You know, because you have to demonstrate that the work is necessary and possible. There's that balance that needs to be made. And so maybe it's about sometimes doing some of that work and then studying that. You know, so it's been a lot of work. All right, so what are some of the current initiatives? You kind of mentioned them, but just in terms of what are different things that are happening at CPAC today?
I think the League for Cities, which we're just thrilled about, and the League of Technical Assistance, Ready for 100. We've got things that everybody else is dealing with, electrification of the city fleet, and then to get the infrastructure, so when all of you get your electric car, you'll have somewhere to charge it. I mean, logistics of that are amazing. You just don't think about it. We've got a small core group, and we met and went through all these little things. Well, what if you work for the city and have to take an electric vehicle? Are you gonna charge it at home? And are we gonna expect you to pay for that? I mean, there's just so many little things to think through on those. The solar field at the wastewater treatment plant and doing some solar, I'm excited about. Also converting a lot of street lights to LED with Dominion, and that is gonna be exciting. But just, yeah, there's so much going on. This is a good time, a really good time.
Do you want to expand on any of those?
I would love to.
Okay.
So let's talk Ready for 100. Do y'all really know what Ready for 100 is? So you want me to take my mask on? Okay, just for you. Yeah, I'm double vaxxed. So Ready for 100 is getting to using renewable energy sources by 2036. Now, the mayor,
For who though?
the mayor committed the city to this in 2016. 2017 as a resolution. This is through the Sierra Club. It is a national program. And there was an option that it could be that renewable energy, 100% renewable energy for just the municipal city or the entire city. It is the entire city. So how many of you are moving your households and your businesses to 100% right now? You know, are you on it? Do you have a plan in place? Because 2036 is coming and you're behind. Well, one thing that I feel very Pat can hit me if this isn't really true is when I came on board and learned about this, I didn't know about it. Here I am, a business owner, a resident. I don't know anything about what we're committed to. Nothing really was being done within the city. So we had already lost years to be able to move forward. So now we've got the added pressure of a smaller time frame to assist the city in figuring out a game plan forward so that we can try and hit this target. So we worked very closely with Clint, many people within the city. We're starting to cross those silos. It's really wonderful. She's talking about Veritas, talking about, you know, fleet electrification. We're starting to talk to people in different departments. How is this going to happen? But as you can imagine, megawatts. How many megawatts does the city use a year? 45?
40-ish.
40 megawatts. I don't really know what that means. Neither do you, but it's a lot. It's so much energy. And that's just 2022 that the city uses.
The university uses twice that much in 2022. That's what we're not even talking about projecting out to 2036. And oh, by the way, the rest of us in our houses and everything like that, we are energy hogs. And there is, how in the world are we going to get to 100% renewable energy by 2036? Oh my gosh. So that's a big thing that we're pushing. And so we're rewriting the original resolution that was done in 2017, thank you. I need y'all's brain. We are rewriting that right now. The resolution that we're working on is specific to the municipal city, so that there is a game plan forward to get that megawattage of renewable energy. We have to project it out to 2036. We have to make sure that we comprehend how much growth we're going to have. Now remember, not growth within the whole city, just of the city itself. What kind of properties do we think that they might be bringing online, or how are things aging out, things like that. So
electrification and
exactly. But as you can imagine, the bigger energy hub is the rest of us, and we're not doing anything. And also, the city has the ability to say, okay, we are going to spend additional monies to hit some of these metrics, et cetera. How does Mary Pat force me, Gretchen, to move the finish line closer, which is use less power? If I'm building a building, to install certain things, solar panels, et cetera, what is it that can you force me to do anything?
I wish I could.
I wish you could too, because I wish I could force everybody out here to do it, but we can't. So one thing that we have to think through is if there's a resolution written for the public, what does that look like? Because I can't force you, it's the old carrot and stick thing, how can I incentivize you? So the mayor did mention incentivize, and I was going to tell Albert, incentivizing things. How do you incentivize the entire population of the city of Columbia to help use less power, move that finish line closer to us? But really honestly, Dominion is the power that is, and that's not pun intended. They control our power. The city is fortunate that they have the hydro plant. It's going to be brought back online. They can create their power. If I have a couple solar power panels in my house, that's not really helping y'all's houses. It's like, so how do we get to using 100% renewable energy? We partner with Dominion, and we have the city go to the table. Clint and his staff are working so well with that, trying to figure out a way forward. But our job, back to us little volunteers, is how do you write a resolution that makes sense, that is passionate, that gets people excited on the same page, going forward in the same direction, so that we can accomplish this goal. It would be not good if we don't accomplish this goal. We need a national commitment to it, and we have to do everything in our power to hit it.
It's okay, yeah.
So is there anybody else in the room that has a relationship with Dominion Energy that works for Dominion Energy? Or so my name's Kelly Laird. I've talked with Mary Baldauf, and I'm sorry that I was late to enter the room. But there are incentive monies that are available to municipalities and small businesses. So if there was a way, so I'm the energy ambassador, and I work to help raise awareness. I'm working the entire Dominion territory. With that said, the city of Columbia is the largest user in my database beyond USC, which is interesting. So maybe USC as a whole, because you're placed in different places across the state, may am not seeing it all, or something like that. Because I'll have to run those numbers again, because or maybe it's city of Columbia is the largest municipality.
Yeah.
I don't let it hold me to that. But if there is a way to gain interest from the public for the use of these incentives, we want to team with you to do that.
I want you to come to our next CPAC meeting and let's dive into this juicy stuff.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And I brought my little fact sheet, just, but,
Awesome.
it can be a lot because there's all kinds of different ways that you can improve energy through these incentives. This is for electric energy, but for small businesses, it can be up to 90% of their LED projects, which would reduce a lot of wattage. It's a wonderful incentive.
Yes, and when we come to our next meeting, also bring like 50 megawatts of solar in your pocket.
The seller would not not be mine, but it's next, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to add anything there, Ken?
I was just gonna say, one of the things that I appreciate about the way we work at CPAC and the way we approach things like the resolution that Gretchen was talking about is we have a lot of conversations about what are our values as Columbians. So when we were writing this resolution 2.0, we talked about things about our values include reducing energy use. Our values include solarizing and electrifying. Our values include overlaying an environmental justice lens, which means whatever we do as Columbians does not affect our neighbors. If we build a solar facility, for example, we want to make sure it's close enough to the city of Columbia that it, the economic development benefits are held by Columbians, but that it's not harming, say, the farmers in Lower Richland County. So environmental justice is one of the values that we brought forward. Budget, money, fiscal responsibility is perhaps the most important value that we bring forward into the work that we do. So, and then making sure that there is a planning process that allows the entire community to participate is one of the values that we bring forward to the work that we do. And that's all.
I will say that most of us knew nothing about energy procurement when the pandemic started. Would you say, was that like, we didn't know a lot about what the statewide board that makes all the decisions or how it worked with Dominion or anything like that, but now we're like, we've gone down that wormhole and we're now gonna stir that pot, so it's actually been useful too. All right, what's your hope for CPAC in the future?
I think that CPAC continue to have the leadership support and continue to grow, build on successes. And I would like to see more everyday people engaged in the climate. I would love to see, I mean, my neighbor, clueless, even though they're my neighbor. I would love to see more everyday folks. It'd be a concern to more people. Because we truly are gonna make a change without that.
Okay.
My measure of success would be for CPAC to get a budget and a line item in the city budget. And we can start fulfilling some of those. And if you're curious to know one of the ways another city did it, come to my panel tomorrow morning. We're gonna learn how Portland did exactly that, so. Money, yes.
And y'all see me out there,
But you know, for me, we have to hit 2036 as our Ready for 100 goal. Like for me, because I am a rule follower, I'm not, but I am.
Sure.
We made this commitment and like, how can we not make it? So we need to work really hard on that. That in my mind is like the most interesting. But there's so many things that I realize I don't know. And like talking with everybody else on the committee, I hear things and I'm like, and I learned so many new things. I don't even know where we're gonna be in a year. I mean, we go down rabbit holes, I mean, they're great. And it's, you know, we're gonna give Clint a coronary, you know, it's like, but that's one wonderful thing is we are bringing things that are relevant in the world to Columbia. And we're starting difficult conversations sometimes. And we're exposing ourselves and the people around us to ideas that we wouldn't otherwise have known about or talked about. And that's so wonderful.
We got a couple of seat openings, a couple of.
Two seat openings.
So if that was a useful for advertisement, do y'all have any questions that you'd like to ask?
This kind of plays off what our Dominion ambassador said, and Mary Pat also mentioned. Communication is so important. I think one of the premier problems of climate change, aside from the science and all the effects, is the fact that nobody or very, very few people are actually paying attention. Everything that y'all said has been very interesting and it sounds good. But how do people outside this room know the things that are happening? How do I know that I need to get my house ready? And how am I going to be enthusiastic about that? do you all have a communications person or?
Yeah, she and I both went to journalism school, so she's a good writer and has a wonderful speaking sustainability e-newsletter.
Yeah, if y'all don't get the e-newsletter, give us your card and we'll add you to the list. But there's, there's so many things to compete with. I don't even know TikTok.
I mean, we have 2 positions open, one of them goes to someone who knows TikTok.
There's a working group, so we've kind of broken
Yeah,
up
we do have a
CPAC
working-
lately, it's working groups, and so there's some people working on energy procurement, there's some people who are working on the new resolution, but there's also a communications working group. And that's about trying to figure out all the different ways that we could be doing communicating and working tightly with Mary Pat on this. And so that if there are things that you would like to see, we can funnel that information towards the communications.
Yeah.
It's just that you don't have a budget to do
Mm-hmm.
all those, good volunteer role.
And you need to give a plug for your client, your sea change.
Well, we'll be happy to give.
Because that was the greatest program.
Well, I'll give a plug to a lot of the groups here. First, one plug I'd like to give to you, Mary Pat, is that I observed the CPAC meetings. I've just been a Zoom face out there.
iPad number 2.
And and a fan of what you're doing. And Clint, I've been so pleased to see so many other members of the city right at the table and really committed to this. And just backing up, when I first was aware of you, your action plan, there were lots of boxes that they had checked over the years, even though we're not at 2036. A lot of progress has been made. And so where I'm coming from is I'm a garden club lady, I'm a volunteer who really cares about the environment and heard about y'all. And we brought a group out of Princeton to Columbia, and it ignited a bunch of other garden club ladies, if that's what I may call us. I think we're more than that, but to help support community projects. And so we do send out the sustainability news to about 200 people each month when that comes out to help spread the word. And I think that maybe that's one of the things that's standing out real big in this room right now is to get the word out, the good things that are happening, but also the big challenges. And I don't know how to do TikTok either.
One of the great things, again, we are a volunteer committee that's embedded in the city. And the city has an excellent public relations department. And so Mary Pat is able to utilize them when it's something outside of what she can do to be able to put things out there. So, we're ever evolving with that. One thing that we have done is we've had some of our committee members, including Bob, who's on the original introduction. They have put together a quarterly video with varying topics. Most recent one was sustainability and our faith-based organizations. And they are hosted on YouTube channel for the city. And they are archived there also. You can go back and view them. So if you know that CPAC exists and that we are part of the city and that they have a YouTube channel, you can go and see that, but you have to know to know. So that's always, I guess, the issue in the game.
I guess it's also like who are we trying to reach, and then how we approach it will depend on who we're trying to reach. Because like if we're trying to reach them, it's probably not the same as you, right? And so I think there's ways we can exploit the resources at the university. Like here, we have the ability to be hosting the conference here because of partnerships with the universities, but there's also CPAC members, myself and some others who are tightly involved with the university, and we can develop further partnerships for that. We partner with communications at the university to work on some of that. Create projects, right? Again, that'd be slow, but that's a total possibility, and that I think the mayor would be interested in helping support such things too. And so I think there's lots of ways that we could work on it, just it's time of creativity.
Isn't there a very large HOA network in the Columbia area? So I think that partnering with that and Main Street districts, those kind of things could be very influential and really helpful in my position too, so.
Undertapped reason or undertapped opportunity I would say that we have yet to exploit from the CPAC perspective is incorporating businesses into it more and how to work on that. But the more we got into energy procurement side, I think we got a little overwhelmed because we're like, how can we actually talk to them when we don't have answers? And so if maybe there's ways that we can, you know, help have conversations with Dominion to figure out what opportunities could come out of that from efficiency plus changing.
I have two questions. One is, how big is the committee? How many people?
So we have two layers, I'll call them. We have two layers of the committee, that came from rewriting rewriting the bylaws. We have 7 voting members, which acts more like an executive committee. And then we have 8 non-voting members. So we have really increased the number of butts and seats, which is great because we've got so many more people to just have their knowledge. So right now we have 2 non-voting seats, as we mentioned that, available. Sign up. But we also, Mary Pat alluded to it, have an advisory board, which is other city staff members who aren't involved with us on a monthly basis, people at the state energy office, people, you know, right, people from throughout the state and the community who come together with us on a quarterly basis and are able to kind of talk to us about what they have going on, hear what we have going on, and synergies kind of happen.
Okay, and my second question is just more of a personal interest. I recently heard that is it Camden passed, eliminated single-use plastic bags. And I was stunned, you know, and I'm curious, is that something that's on your, is there a place where your list is defined as to what particular projects you're hoping?
You can thank the pandemic.
Yeah, I know.
Before the pandemic, I put together a white paper.
Yeah.
With all the different options, with everybody, what everybody is doing in the state. And we were gonna kind of work with Richland County, because they were going through a similar process. And the code happened and everything just dried up.
It got through a first vote in Richland County Council to pass plastic bags. It wasn't single-use plastic, but it was plastic bags. And then I think it hit some heated debate plus COVID, and then it died. Yeah.
I will say there is a plastics panel tomorrow if you want to swing by. It's the very last panel of the Saturday session. So
Yeah.
check it out if you want to explore further.
And if it happened at the county level, it would then happen at the city level because we're outside the county. So it's kind of better to aim for the county on that one than the city. Because then you said, I've also learned.
So
all
it's
this.
sort of languished at this stage, but
It could happen, it's languished at county level, but that's where it initially had traction. So I would go back and push on your county councilors.
And I would say this in recent months, years, since the pandemic, the composition of our Richland County Council has changed rather significantly, and the composition of our city council has changed rather significantly. So there may be some education, bringing them up to speed, the new members up to speed as to where they were versus where we are now.
We have a question on that. You can read it.
Is one question and then a couple other comments, but the question is from Mia Gray, and she asks, will CPAC continue virtual meetings and or hybrid or go to only in person?
I think we have yet to make that official decision, but I can't imagine that we'll get away from virtual.
It's been so.
Because it has been good.
Yeah.
And now I get angry when the committee I'm on doesn't have that option. It's like for the first month, I was like, Zoom, debated my existence. Now I'm like, can we do this on Zoom? Because it really does facilitate better activity and participation. And it saves the creation of greenhouse gases. You don't have to drive somewhere.
Yeah. Did I see that you were about to start raising your hand? No. that's-
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So have my spidey sense.
I am interested in how the city and the county work together on these issues, if they work together at all.
Yeah, so sure, you know, whether it's recycling or, you know, garbage collection or water and sewer issues, those sorts of things. We do have a pretty close relationship with the county. We're the water provider and whatnot, but particularly when it comes to thinking about the Ready for 100 pledge, I don't believe the county has signed on to that, but they are interested in the work of CPAC and the work of procuring renewable energy. So I'll put a plug in for Dr. Z's next session, where we're going to talk about how you might procure renewable energy on a larger scale. But they are a seat at the table as we've been talking about how we might do something regionally, because, you know, we're in the city, but we're part of the county. And so, you know, and this is really a Midlands issue. And so it wouldn't be wise for us to forge off and do something without involving the county, and vice versa. We're much stronger when we work together. And so I think everybody through all levels recognize that and want to move that forward. So they're one of their newer assistant county administrators is actually, we've been talking quite a bit about, you know, if we're going to do something, let's think about doing it together. I hope that answers your question.
I think he's on the panel at the end of the day
Yes,
tomorrow.
yes,
But yeah, so he's on, so Eric Jensen is his name, and so he will be here at the end of the day tomorrow. Do you feel like you know what you need for this feedback, and you're gonna come join us and Inspire, do you think it has to happen?
I have a question about CPAC. So for people who are hearing about it for the first time today, I know you mentioned that a lot of issues that people have had volunteering are other obligations. So for people like, you know, per se here at college, who maybe only have a couple of hours a week to give here and there, Dr. Z created a good opportunity for me to be a part today. But do you guys accept volunteers, you know, for just single time projects, that kind of stuff? What's a good way to get involved if you don't have a lot of time?
We need to get you on the email newsletter list, because that's where we list different things that you can do in a day
All right.
or in an hour. Yes.
But what we do is if you have a heartbeat and you zoom in, you're in. So, next meeting is
Tuesday morning,
Tuesday morning at 8:30. We can give you the link. But all kidding aside, I mean, we have people zooming in all the time and they are not student members, and we love that. And we have just really kind of started fleshing out some committees. And there are people who are on the committees who have never come to our regular meetings. They're just, oh, they heard about this one thing, like, oh, you're rewriting a resolution. I'm an English, you know, major, I can help you. Great, come on board. So we've now got some tendrils out into more specific things that we're doing that they can be involved in. And like I said, we don't know where we're gonna be in a year. So you might be able to zoom in and out of some meetings. An idea might form, you might get in touch with us, and all of a sudden we're down our next really cool rabbit hole. So anybody can come.
One of the current working groups is also led by someone who graduated from UofSC 2 years ago, or the year of the pandemic, that was his final semester. He was in 3.5 semester. He is leading up, trying to write a comprehensive plan that takes and incorporates climate. It's kind of like that compass plan, but in terms of, we've started getting different people in the city involved in that as another sort of collaborative effort of how we go about that, maybe getting funding, etc. And so that's something that started from someone who's just newly out of college. So no harm intended.
All right, thank you.
I would also say, I'm gonna, because you smile, you're gonna get a plug back there, Kristen. So Dr. Dow, who's sitting in the back in the light blue shirt, she has had ways that she's incorporated students indirectly. So she has not necessarily fully had them come to meetings, but they have done work in her class that ended up being a great service to the city. So they've done greenhouse gas audits for the city, and that's how we actually figure out what parts of or what sectors of the city do we need to focus on in terms of doing decarbonization faster. And so that's other ways that students can get involved, figuring out things like that. Like the university needs one.
I didn't hear that.
Everybody else did because it's being recorded.
University, no, she's like, don't tell me because I don't want to leave that special conference class. Isn't that what that was? Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if this would be a question for you guys, but does the city of Columbia have its own climate mitigation or adaptation plan? And does its non-existence or existence particularly affect the way you guys operate?
We only have the climate action plan. We don't have an adaptation or mitigation officially.
But it could be put in this comprehensive plan if we
Right.
so choose.
And that's part of what Zach's work is in terms of that, trying to figure out how, so other cities have that, and it's a great document to look for. And so, but it has to be something that happens collaboratively and not just like some gung-ho people who aren't thinking within the reality of what's possible, so.
And when Charleston wrote those, they had, when they did theirs last year, they had some 200 hours of community interfacing built into it. So it went deep, yeah. But Charleston's also facing significant challenges that Columbia luckily is not.
But if that's a topic that you're interested in.
Yeah, come on.
So I know you said funding, you want to try to get that, but what other steps do you have like planned out to continue growing? And like another side part, I know you said that you were housed in public works. Would part of that growing be changing where you're housed at?
Not saying that question.
I'm kind of married to public works. And I never want to leave public works.
Understood.
But throughout the southeast, in similar cities, they do it so differently. There's a lot of staff and citizens advisory committees. Some are in the mayor's office. Some are in the city manager's office. Some are in planning. They're all located in different places. Public works, there's some in public works. So I have a great boss. And as long as Robert's here, I don't want to leave.
I think part of how we're structured, Mary Pat is our facilitator.
Right.
And so she does a good job kind of herding the cats, but in order for it to be effective, it can't just be one person. It's got to be baked into every department and how we operate. And I came up through the city ranks as a division head and a department head. And so I knew how to spell CPAC, but I couldn't have told you what it stood for when I joined the city. But I knew we were modernizing facilities and saving on energy meant lower cost to our customer base. So we were doing those things. Now I understand about Ready for 100 and the pledge. And so we've got to make sure that all of our staff, that it gets permeated. And so every decision we're making when it comes to even cutting off the light when you leave the office, things that ought to be just understood. Everybody knows they've got a part to play in saving dollars and saving our climate, but advancing us toward the Ready for 100. So I think it's, we just, silos has been mentioned a couple of times, breaking those down. That's really important. And I think these folks help us see those blind spots as we get involved in government every day. Well, I'm trying to do this and make sure we're picking up the garbage, or we're serving water, or fixing leaks, Lord knows fixing leaks, or whatever it might be, always keeping that, viewing every decision that we make through the lens of protecting the environment and moving toward this overall goal is really important. So we've talked more of rather than having a single person that's a champion, kind of a task force of department heads or assistant city managers that are making sure that everything we do, we're doing with this common goal. So I think that's probably how we're evolving and learning, and CPAC is helping us with that.
It has improved tremendously since the pandemic started. I was a little obsessed with the org chart and how we couldn't see other places in the city when the pandemic started. But I would say that now that we all work much better together and locally, but also having buy-in across the city. And I think that he's the thank for that. So thank you.
Yes.
Right. Y'all, because I wouldn't have, we operate, we have blind spots, and y'all help us see, hey, you really could do better at that, dude. Come on. And so that gentle pressure of, yeah, we do need to involve more people and everybody needs to be more aware of it. And that's the good, positive pressure, I think, that has come out of this.
All right, we have one more question and time. We're just gonna take the online question and we'll call it done.
All right, it's a little bit more of a comment, but Nina said that Mr. Bob mentioned the issues with renters and the challenge of that 100% by 2036. Have CPAC thought of any particular ways to incentivize landlords to make that change?
So you have to remember that when it comes to taxes, our taxes come from the county, not the city. I'm speaking kind of the right, there's H tax and stuff like that, but so also with incentives, Dominion has certain incentives that are available to residents, and of course, state energy office has some incentives. So there's multiple players involved in all of that. It's hard to have us as an advisory body to the city come up with incentives that the city can implement that can make a huge difference in the usage of energy in the city. Anybody who has brilliant ideas, please next Tuesday at 8:30 Zoom in. But that's kind of where we are. It's like the city only has so much power in that realm. Now, there are multiple players, and if you have one place that everyone can go and find out all the incentives that are available to you, are you gonna find that it's just a drop in your bucket? Or are you gonna find, oh, wait, this is significant? We don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but there's only so much that the city can do by itself.
Yeah, I would just add, you heard us earlier talk about this NREL grant. It's not a money grant, it's a technical expertise grant. And they're gonna be helping us solve that very question, because I know as a community organizer, when I go out to the community and talk to people, because City of Columbia is like the island of Manhattan and everybody rents, we know that you don't talk about rent without talking about utilities, how much it costs to heat and cool. You don't talk about utilities without talking about rent. Housing and energy are so intimately connected that was the approach that we told NREL we wanted to go with, because we knew we would be getting 2 months, 2 days for the buck. So yeah, stay tuned, Nina. Good things coming in about a year's time.
Also, CPAC had worked with the state energy office to work on scoping that, because other places have done it. The state of Missouri has done it, and that was a statewide program based on legislative action. And then the state of Portland has done it. We quickly ran into some hurdles here that we need to overcome, so that will take a little time to resolve before we can get to that.
Great.
Anyways.
We will be working on this grant. Our partners include Homeless No More and TN Development. So some of the folks who live in those would benefit from something like that. Get their input.
Well, let's just throw this out there for those people who rent or know people who rent. Wouldn't it be helpful to know before you pick rental unit A or rental unit B, that rental unit A is gonna cost you $1,000 in utilities a month versus B is gonna cost you $100? That would be like super.
There might be some student organizing that can happen.
Yeah, that would be super useful information. Well, now think that you are a disadvantaged person, maybe you are low income, you have health issues, etc. And you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're getting assistance, and all of a sudden, the difference between an extra $20 that you spend on utilities is depending, are you gonna get your medication that month or not? It's a huge thing. University students are in probably slightly different boat, as a large group. But we need to consider that that's not the only rental community that we have in the city. We have a lot of people who cannot buy their own homes and who are living paycheck to paycheck and have these difficulties that a lot of us very fortunately do not. And how in the world do we help them figure out how to navigate that?
Yes to all. So thank you very much for your input. Thank you for your participation. Let's move to a round of applause. Next sessions start at 3, so I gave you 12 minutes of break.
We we have students, we do. We are gonna be hiring an intern for this summer. Okay. So